Hey, you're now in Wonderland. Forget everything you thought you knew and rethink it again, 'cause nothing is as it seems. I'm Tweedledee and I'm here with Tweedledum, and we're here to attenuate your way of thinking. So have fun and take it away, Max.
Yeah, power minding is providing my mind with a lot of powers today. It has taken me a while to wrap my mind around Dr. Time's teachings of time scaling and group theory. I'm by no means expert level quite yet, but I am starting to reach that point of comprehension where I see the structure fundamentally. Um, and so I am trying to use my Tweedledum energy to always be the opposite of everything and see if I can't reflect this order in a chaos that can't be denied. And that's kind of like a Lorentz attractor idea of because you can't force chaos into anything. That's true. But like, I mean, it's called the Lorentz attractor in math, but you just call it an attractor if you want to. Um, I kind of like it because
Is
phonetic.
the Lorentz attractor a strange attractor in chaos theory?
Um, a Lorentz attractor would be what would I call it? An undeniable example of a powerful strange attractor. So
Okay.
I guess they're essentially the same because it's the same theory.
Actually, the problem lies in the fact that different sciences use words differently,
Mm-hmm.
and the to me a strange attractor in physics has specific language to chaos theory, and chaos theory is pretty fundamental when you want to understand how to come to a better order. You need to develop a better chaos. And so,
Oh, a better way to navigate chaos is what I would say.
yeah, no, it's an energy thing. Think of a pendulum. The order that you reach at the maximum of the pendulum moving to the left
Mm-hmm.
is the chaos that you reach on the pendulum when the order hits the right.
I hear you loud and clear on that, and I'm not trying to be pedantic or anything, but it really is like kind of a Mobius strip in my mind. These chaos and orders happen at the same time. It's the drawing order out of chaos that is like where perpetual motion, so to speak, might come from, or the
The
perpetual
Mobius
motion that we get.
strip, the Mobius strip has a third dimension to it. It's not just a flat ribbon with a twist. There's the edge between the two ends. And I wonder if every time you go through the middle, the first time you go through, it's the 0 point. The second time you go through, it's the infinity point, and it works back and forth between zero and infinity to keep the strip flipping.
Well, and if you take a traditional Mobius strip where you just cut a piece of paper, just the practical evolution, cut a piece of paper, put a half twist in it, tape it together, and then just practice with it what it feels like in your hands. If you take your thumb and your forefinger and run it along the edges of the Mobius strip the entire time, it's as smooth as a train track. You'll never be able to tell the difference. Now, if you choose one side or the other, or God forbid both sides of the flat part, the ability to tell the difference between the inside and the outside disappears as you go around the circle. The inside and the outside become the same thing. But it's interesting because that's juxtaposed with the idea that if you run your fingers, your thumb and forefinger, on the edges of it and run it around, it's as smooth as a train track the entire time. It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating conception, to be completely honest, and like that. that layering of order and chaos is, to me, very much fundamental. I don't see. I see them as transposed over the top of each other. Then you pull the order out of chaos, and that's why I like the Lorentz attractor. But then the strange attractor gets kind of complicated because spooky motion at a distance got translated with strange attraction on a quantum, or strange entanglement on a quantum level, and that made the concept of a strange attractor get blurred within the idea. But fundamentally, all Lorentz attractors are strange attractors, and they're just named after Lorentz. But the strangeness is that when you map out the chaotic points, you can find these nodes of interest, and these nodes are very much representative of how the decentralized nodes are working currently. Like you were just talking about your computer not being able to run a simple spreadsheet because the processing power is being usurped by the gravity of the attractor sitting within the chaotic theme. I hope my words are not getting too stumbled across because I see it really clear in my mind, but it's very hard to say. The more your individual processor acts as a Lorentz attractor in the decentralized node network, the more it uses your processing power as part of the gestalt of the greater picture. So that's why, like, my phone will overheat. That's why spaces will log down. That's why you can't run a spreadsheet. Is because the distribution of processing power, that's what they call Web3. We're not running everything through a central point anymore. It's not, everything doesn't go back to mama server. That's the way that I see it. But I'm just a layman. That's just what I've experienced in my technological.
I have a theory.
Yeah.
My theory is that the angle between magnetism and electricity is not 90 degrees. It's 109.4 degrees, the angle of a tetrahedral, not a triangle. And so, not a right triangle.
I hear what you're saying.
So the idea is that all this extra heat is a waste of energy because the fields aren't aligned properly. And I believe that's deliberate because they don't want people mucking around with alternatives to the sciences that make money for the corporations. And so disincorporating life is a premise of it's a premise of our world.
I almost made the mistake of responding. Yes, it is live now, Grizz. We've made a whole bunch of progress. When it comes to this concept of the premises of our world, this is why Wonderland serves me so well. It's because I have a very, how would I say it? I have a very axiomatic way of looking at things. I don't anticipate to share axioms. I just seek conversations where people are axiomatically coherent to the axioms that they themselves have set out for their own language. I don't expect to speak the same as everybody or see it the same as everybody. Honestly, I kind of expect the opposite. But what I do seek is people with axiomatic integrity. And so that's one of the challenges that I find is that there's no standard worth considering a standard other than the standard that you should consider your own standards. And it starts to sound like Tweedledum. So I guess I'm playing my character right today.
It's where you gotta be when you gotta be there. And there seems to be a magic in being able to do that. All right, Grizz, enjoy your trip and travels. Uh-oh, we became pink and now we're purple. But leave it at purple in deference to the purple people because I like the idea and I want to hear more about it.
Oh, definitely. It took me a few clicks there. I'm still practicing, but I like the idea of running the color of the banners at the bottom to match with the spirit of the conversation. And like I felt, whereas like I guess before we went all the way live, me, you, and 21 were more on like a green-hearted or a green-colored conversation. I thought that kind of where we had gotten, me and you, since we'd gone live, had more of like a purple feel to it. And so it took me a few clicks to try and pick a purple that seems reasonable, at least on my screen set. Going for kind of like a dark lavender, a little bit less than royal purple. Not that bodacious, but I really like the idea of that, the attitude, the banner color, background color changing with the attitude of the conversation. And it's a fun challenge for me to listen in color because it's way outside of my comfort zone to try and interpret it with color, but it's feeling like a good challenge. I feel like I'm learning how to play piano or something.
There was a camera that was invented, and I forget what type of camera, what the name of it was, but it could see people's auras.
I've seen a couple of examples. Yeah.
I've seen one where the person who took the pictures knew what was going on and could interpret people by their auras, and people would pay for this service. But when I saw what she could do with that device, it scared the shit out of me because I don't want to open my mind to allow people to get in to be able to fuck with things. And I think by
Trust me, Doc. I've already gone. I've already tried. You're locked up like Fort Knox. I don't think anybody. I pity the fool that tries to conquer that labyrinth.
it comes with autism, and everybody's on the autism spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and they just don't recognize it because they've been told that that's a liability, when in fact I believe it's a
Even the term,
benefit.
and even the term autism is like it means nothing to me. But like it's starting just to sound like the term human. But you process things in your own way. You're not completely susceptible to hypnotism to the point where you lose all sense of individual personality. And
Well,
then
it
they call
depends
that
if you
autism.
make your saving throws against the mind control.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, wait, they know how to dream about this. It only takes a tap to the toe.
Okay.
My brain just started going so fast right there. Um, so when it comes to this order of operations of communication itself, there's clearly value to the juxtaposition between Wonderland and corporeal reality. If my computer dies right now, I will be sitting in a trailer at 54664 Forest Ridge Road Northeast 97381 Silverton, Oregon. This is where I'll be if the laptop dies. So now there is this interesting juxtaposition where we're creating a new world out of a sinking ship. It's nearly an impossible task. Right? The cognitive dissonance of destroying the thing that's keeping you alive in order to build the version that will keep you alive, like repurposing the pieces of the ship to make extra lifeboats so that you don't Titanic yourself, is an absolutely maddening process to go through. And I think it's really important to acknowledge how maddening it is to go through that process, because I feel like some of the cognitive dissonance that pervades all of the society, even internationally, can be a form of a bridge if used accurately. And that's something that I'm trying to transmute into Wonderland. I don't know if it's going to come through all the way with the education per se, but it's very much entangled.
Well, let's figure out what we want to do for Wonderland branding and create a couple of short videos, and maybe people reading some poetry and get things that are canned that we can bring up using the present and then presenting.
Are you down to host the group on X, the community? My communities are all messed up, or I would. I'm in too many. It's all confused. But on X,
Um,
there's a button called Communities. And if you want to host a Wonderland community, then that would be a place to deposit content that wouldn't be blurred by the timeline. And we just have vetted Wonderland experts as part of the group. And then that way we could use it as a notebook.
Let me wait and see how James's community develops.
Okay.
The higher round table, because he's only had one meeting, and he came in with I I observed 34 people, 35 people in the room, 34 being the Fibonacci number closest.
Mm-hmm.
But it it got up into the 70s with number of different people mic'd in at different times. And those are two different metrics of measurement, but it
Mm-hmm.
starts him off ahead of the previous groups that I've measured, because 34 people in a starting group is a whole lot. If that was the first order, first meeting, it's like 8 levels of depth. But we'll see what happens on Friday's meeting if there's more people or less people, or about the same number of people. And it's still a first order meeting because it's still people getting to introduce themselves. And it went too long for me last time. After 2 hours, I'm not listening to people talking about what they were talking about. And so I drifted off somewhere else. But then again,
Yeah, that the ability to that is definitely one of the challenges that we face when it comes to the digital scaling of groups, and that's why I like your focus on foundational scaling as opposed to some sort of goal to have a bajillion people all of a sudden, because it doesn't work. You can only keep track of so much. Like even people that are really, really good at it can only keep track of so much. And so I do like the 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 paced scaling and the um, incremental live streams, I would say. The behind the locker room conversations aren't really exhausting because I can hang up whenever or anything, and I feel no pressure on this one. I was the one that suggested it. But there is an interesting increment to it, which I think is valuable, and that's why I like. By the time we hit an hour and a half or 2 hours on Wonderland, it's the same thing. It's like if I don't digest all of this, I'm going to lose track of it. And I think there's something extra to that when you're like considering yourself as being on stage, because it's not just a rehearsal where. Not that there's any added pressure per se, but it's just a different experience fundamentally. Uh, so I like the incremental aspect of it, but I also enjoyed things like this, where it's real spontaneous. There's no plan to do a stream like this. It's just kind of locker room talk behind the idea of it. That's the type of thing that I like to see. Like if I wanted to get a feeling of Wonderland that doesn't have the Wonderland feeling, I could watch a stream like this and be like, oh, this is Max and Doc talking about Wonderland. They don't agree on everything or see everything the same way, but they agree on the principles and the direction, and this is how it goes. I see a lot of authenticity in that, and by result of the authenticity value in and of itself. Whew, man, sometimes I get a little bit soapboxy, but I felt like it was a decent little rant.
I don't have a problem talking to people or being on stage. I just imagine that the audience is buck naked, and that throws me into where I can focus on my attention on what I'm talking about and totally be distracted. It's like talking one on one, talking to a big audience. The place where I have problems is with the dozen or 2 dozen people at a cocktail party or doing something as a group. And I never feel comfortable in groups of that size.
Hmm.
They're too overwhelming for me to deal with. And I pushed myself to the limits to do the radio show back 3 or 4 years ago. And it took me a good 6 months to recover after I stopped the show. And I really never went back home to the place I left where the show was housed
Yeah.
because I ended up cross country at my mom's, and it took me a while to get a flight back to California because they had this thing about some sort of disease spreading amongst the populace, and everybody had to alter their schedules and keep 6 feet away and all sorts of fun stuff from Mr. Science. Uh-oh. Now you've changed the green to blue.
I thought it was purple before.
Well, we were in purple with the banners and such, but I've always had my nameplate in green. But it
From
was a strange
on
thing.
my screen, your nameplate has changed every time that I've changed the color. So it was just purple, now it's blue. Like your
Wow.
nameplate does not seem to be independent of the overall banner color. And
Are
nor
we
does
working in Wonderland or are we working in reality?
mine. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, to be completely honest. Like, full disclosure here, I'm doing my best to keep composure, but whew, like, because I'm not Euclidean, like parallel timelines cross from my perspective. I don't run a Euclidean mind state whatsoever. My hallways fold into each other, so these parallel timelines get kind of spicy.
Well, my phone here says it's 6:53 and my computer says that it's 6:57.
Your computer is effectively time traveled 3 minutes at a time because it's 6:53. But multiple devices to confirm it, even though I'm not going to walk out and measure the angle of the sun at the moment because I don't have my sundial installed, so I have to stand just at the right angle, and that's not what I'm doing. But
Well, it basically is a way that I can tell that I'm on at least 2 different narradimes.
yeah, it's like a paradigms. If you got 2 different narradimes, you got a paradigms. And when you're paradigm shifting, it's handy to have a handful of Roosevelts.
Well, our friend Madness is trying to get me to meet up with other people who have PhDs, and I think he's trying to cause a paradox.
Yeah, I adopted my parasites. Paradoxes flow through me consistently.
Well,
That's the Catholic Church has 2 heads on their flag now.
2 docs are a paradox, and 3 docs are a 3 of a kind, and 4 docs is almost better than a royal flush.
You can
But
nearly fit an entire armada in a Quattro Daco.
and we give reference to the Queen of Hearts, and this half hour of live stream has been pretty useful, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 in the afternoon Eastern, and which is, 6 o'clock to our friends in England, and even later to our friends in Europe. But we'll have another edition of Wonderland. And if you care to be one of the characters in the scene and have something to share with us, our topic tomorrow is going to be education. And we want to know what the Dormouse said, right? Feed your head.
One makes you grow bigger, one makes you grow smaller. Hey, can I get some feedback on the red right now? I'm having a really hard time with the red. I'm trying.
That's like a maroon.
I know. I don't want it to be as bright red as the live stream color. I'm trying to find like a good red that reminds me of like the red chakra feeling, like fundamental. That's close? I feel like that's still too dark, but then it gets orange. Maybe there. I don't know. The
You
red one is.
you you're
I feel like I
looking
did better on
for
purple, blue, and
you're
green.
looking for the color of the live in the upper left hand corner.
Except less bright. The live looks neon to me. I want essentially the
Okay.
same color, but less bright. And this is as close as I can think to see it. I feel like I did decent with the purple, green, and blue. Still haven't gone as far as orange yet, but I feel like when we're talking about grounding back into education for Wonderland, red would be a good color, and I'm not super satisfied with it. But darker doesn't seem to make it better. And pink is not what I'm going for at all. Neither is like blood clot brown. There, maybe it's that. So that's not like neon looking on the screen. It's like less bright than the live stream looking thing, but still has plenty of red.
Okay.
All right, give me something to aim for. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to study this color language thing. I like it as a translation, and if we can get Switch in here and he can give me some color feedback as I do it in real time without even mentioning it during the stream, even if it takes me a couple clicks to get the colors right, I don't mind if it like flashes a couple different colors as I'm trying to aim for it. That seems like
Okay.
just part of the
Well,
process.
we can have the conversation on education with Switch and 21
Hopefully we
and
can get them in. Yeah.
whomever else chooses to come into the room. And of course, Alice will be there
Yeah, I really hope
because
Alice can make it.
if she can't, I'm sure we'll do fine without her. But the idea is that the internet is totally gender misbalanced. And I mean gender misbalance in a sense of hermetism and hermetics.
Yeah.
And the idea of things being natural and just flowing has been artificially blocked by a system that wants to limit the exchange of information. And it's been gradual, but it's been going on. Colleges no longer exchange information between professors that have industrial appointments because if they want that information, they must sign an NDA before they're even accepted into the group, and everything has been turned for profit.
Yeah,
And
that is a
so
terrible system.
it's very important to model a different education system that does not compete with the current one. It just takes a different approach to what people need to know at what age and makes it so that the application of information is a demonstration that you know what is being talked about.
I completely agree that the peer review system is deeply broken. If there's NDAs necessary to even review information, then we're not even close to honesty. Um, I think that's fantastic. I gotta ask, hey, does this color feel orange or gold?
It actually feels a little more brown than either one of those.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try and get just a little bit more orange. Hold on. That's too much. Maybe top corner orange. How about that? Is that more orange feeling?
Yeah, that's pretty good orange.
This is all new to me, and I don't really know how my screen interacts with other people's screens. But so I appreciate like the sidebar of practicing, because I think this is going to be a cool way of me communicating without making so much noise, and that's one of the things that I need to practice. I think we can call it good for the pre-stream. I still got a couple more,
Okay.
and I don't want to stay up way too late because I'm trying to actually be on time tomorrow. Yeah, I know, likely story. Don't anticipate it. And user mod's gonna get here like at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock tonight, so I'm sure it's gonna be chaos. But
Well, he's
we'll do our best.
definitely invited to Wonderland tomorrow if he wants to play.
Oh, we might be able to do that. We might. I might even be able to figure out how to incorporate. Oh, you like my all-seeing eye? That is actually just stretching my shoulders, but might be able to incorporate a little bit of Tweedledee Tweedledum with me and user on the same screen. And
Yeah.
since he's a registered candidate, oh, and that reminds me, I got to get in touch with Bourbon Supreme. I think that's valuable. It's not crucial at the moment, but it's valuable overall.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do something really interesting and knock you off the picture and say, wherever you are in the world today, thank you for being here with us talking about Wonderland from a real LARP perspective. We'll be back tomorrow morning, and until that time, you be sure to do about 3 impossible things that nobody expects because we need the practice.